what does communication pattern analysis mean?
So as the word indicates, all our communications somehow over the years picks up some kind of patterns.
It could be from habits that we've inculcated over the years, repeating over and over again.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And also probably heavily influenced by the people around, the environment around.
Absolutely.
You heard about this word role modeling.
Yes, yes.
We all tend to pick up our own patterns.
Absolutely.
And most of us, most often are not even aware of what is our patterns that with which we speak. We communicate day in and day out.
Yeah.
And, because some of these patterns are healthy and good, beneficial to our communication or our building relationships or our ability to influence people.
Yeah.
But sometimes if our patterns are not okay,
if you've picked up bad habits,
yes,
it could be influencing adversely your effectiveness, reducing your effectiveness.
Yeah, that is why this communication pattern analysis is very key, very important.
True.
I also would like to stress on the fact, the third important word, analysis. It is not just about communication. It is not just about patterns. We need to be able to analyze how each one of us speak.
Absolutely.
Thereby, the advantage for you and me, right, and for everyone who understands this science of communication, is that our communication can be analyzed.
And and after analysis, you're in a position to course correct.
Absolutely. You can make changes.
Absolutely. Because you have a measure.
Absolutely. In fact, that is exactly what Dr. Ericberne did. You heard about Dr. Ericberne?
I have.
Yes, and he is very popular for what do you call it as TA. TA stands for
Transactional Analysis.
Absolutely, you got it right.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
He wrote books like Games People Play.
And what do you say after you say hello?
Oh, yes, that's another one.
Yeah.
In fact, there are many other authors who were influenced by Dr. Ericberne.
Absolutely.
Took off and then they wrote books like I Am Okay, You're Okay.
Or The Okay Boss.
The Okay Boss.
Right.
So a lot of publications and books came based on
the work of Ericberne.
And the transactional analysis.
Right.
Incidentally, he was there between 1910, May, he was born, and then 1970, July. Yeah.
Right.
And he's a Canadian psychiatrist of global fame. Yes. And what we are talking today, the communication pattern analysis, is founded on the wonderful research of Dr. Ericberne. So very scientific, very analytic.
There's a strong scientific base to what we're going to discuss today.
Absolutely. And so when we say strong base, this transactional analysis we spoke about.
Right.
Basically, he talks about 3 ego states.
When you talk about an ego state, you're basically referring to a psychological state.
State of mind.
State of mind, yeah. That's influencing perhaps the way you think, the way you feel, the way you act, right? Or the way you respond to the environment around you, right? And what's interesting is that these ego states are influencing your communication.
Absolutely. Right? This is irrespective of what your age is.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You can be a very elderly person and you can be still behaving in the child ego state.
Right.
Or you could be a manager in an organization and you could be behaving like in the parent ego state.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that means the 3 ego states which are mentioned in the transaction analysis are what do you call it as the P, the A, and the C.
Or the parent,
yes,
the adult, and the child ego state.
Yes.
Right? Now, as Srinidhi was mentioning, we could all function from any of these 3 ego states at any point of time. Right? And the interesting thing is we shift between these ego states based on the situation.
Absolutely.
Right? Based on people who we are interacting with.
True.
Right? Environmental triggers.
Correct.
That make the switch in our minds and we unconsciously take these different ego states and our communication plays out. Right?
See, the communication pattern analysis, once you are aware of the pattern,
right,
one of the major advantage is that you realize who are you
absolutely
in different communication situations. right? Different transactions,
Yeah.
right? So when you know that this is what you're doing,
Right.
there is nothing right or wrong about being, speaking from a parent state or a child state or adult state.
They all have their advantages. Absolutely.
But situationally,
Yeah.
if you can pick and choose your communication pattern, you will be that much more effective.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that is why it becomes very important going forward.
Yes.
Yeah. So, briefly, let us talk about transactional analysis itself, right? Let's make it as simple for our own understanding as possible, because that gives us a very good foundation.
Yeah, and this is something that you can take with you as you move ahead in your life.
Absolutely.
Right?
So now, when you are looking at transactional analysis, there are two things that come. That the conversation is happening between two people or more.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah.
So what do I think about myself and what do I think about the other person?
All right. That's one dimension.
One dimension.
Right.
So the one dimension is me. About me, my state of mind says, I am okay.
Right.
Or exactly the extreme opposite, I am not okay.
Okay.
In any conversation.
Right. And the second dimension would be when I view the other person.
Yeah, again, it's my mental state.
Yeah, my mental state, my perception of you, right?
Right.
You could either be okay or you could be not okay.
Yeah. Now, this is likely to happen. In fact, if I give a small example, you will be able to understand the situation. Imagine I am talking, from a position of power. I have a good title.
Right.
I'm talking to one of my junior members in the team.
Right.
I'm more qualified than him. I'm more experienced than him. In that conversation, I'm likely to operate from the zone of I am okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah. At the same time,
yeah.
If I'm talking to somebody who's senior to me,
right.
So I'm talking to somebody who is more qualified than me.
Right.
I'm talking to somebody who is holding a senior position. What happens is I am likely to adopt the other role. I am not okay. Maybe the other person knows more than me, or he's more experienced, he's more qualified,
Absolutely.
He's got a position of power. So that means I could actually shift up and down.
Absolutely. Based on who you're talking to, the power dynamics, the roles that you perceivably play in society. Yeah, it could be an elder versus a much younger person. Yeah,
Absolutely.
It could be a title holder versus not someone that is so qualified, as you mentioned.
Yeah, right? The same. Again, you use the word perception.
Right.
In the same dimension, I have a perception about other person. It's not only about me.
Absolutely.
About other person. I think of him as better equipped than me. Then I am likely to think that you are okay.
He is okay or she is okay.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. But when I think that he or she does not know anything about the topic or the subject that we are discussing, I'm likely in my mind perceive that person is not okay. So that means that's why this entire thing comes across as very popularly also reflected as I am okay, you're okay model.
Simple to understand. Yeah.
Okay, now let's look at it.
Yeah. Let's understand how this works in terms of the diagram.
Yes. Right? So now I am okay, I am not okay is on what axis?
The y-axis.
Wow, wonderful.
Right.
The y-axis.
Right.
And on the x-axis,
you have the you're not okay, you're okay continuum.
Absolutely. So now that brings us when their position is almost like a cross, it gives you 4 quadrants.
A 4-quadrant model.
4-quadrant model of the transactional analysis.
Yes.
Right? So I am okay, you are not okay becomes our first quadrant. Right? Where I am talking from a position of strength and I think the other person really is not up to the mark or does not know or probably unaware, right? Still a novice.
Absolutely.
So that kind of a perception. And now, if I'm operating from I am okay and you are not okay, if I am not. So now you just now said the parent, adult and the ego states.
Right.
So which state is this? I am okay, you are not okay.
I think it's obvious, right? So as a parent, you tend to see yourself as right, as being in power, right? And the person that you're talking to, perhaps not as much as in power. So the parent state, the parent ego state comes out very clearly when you have a combination of these perceptions. I'm okay versus you are not okay.
In the parent also, there could be 2 types.
Absolutely. Right? If you think about it, as a parent, you could in this situation,
Yes.
one, be controlling, right?
Dominating.
Because you know the answers, you know the outcome, therefore you try to influence the outcome based on your power or position, right? So this comes out in your words, this comes out in your gestures as well.
Aggression.
Aggression, right?
Yes.
Aggression or dominance, right?
Yes.
The second position that you could take as a parent is the nurturing parent. Someone who cares for the other person, wants the other person to develop or grow, right?
Yeah.
And this is also
More advisory.
Advisory, perhaps you want to ensure that the person does not get hurt,
Yes.
right? So in these cases also you see that I know what's right for you, right? I take the stance of wanting to help you learn,
Yeah.
right? But in both cases, what is similar is I'm okay, I know, and I perceive that you may not.
Absolutely, absolutely. You hit the nail.
Right.
See, I am okay, you're not okay. It doesn't matter whether you're a controlling parent or a nurturing parent. The belief in the person operating from the parent ego state is that he knows better, other person does not know.
Yeah.
So which means even though the intention of the parent may be good, intention of the manager may be good, they are likely to have an underlying belief that the other person does not know.
Does that make sense?
So it kind of creates a dependency relationship.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, now let's look at the other, exactly the diagonally opposite one, right? Because the diagonally opposite one is what brings out the child ego state.
Right. I am not okay,
Yes.
but I perceive that you are okay. Right? And the child ego state, just think about it, it's typically how you felt, thought, and behaved as a child, wherein you did not feel perhaps so confident in that moment, but you perceive the other person to be the confident person, the one who knows.
Very, very true. So now again, see, irrespective of the age, I could be 60, 70 years old and I could still be operating from a I am not okay mode.
Yeah.
And I put somebody else above me, right? So now this child state can also have two dimensions. One is a free child. Right? So I have the freedom to say whatever I want. And the other extreme is the
adapted child.
The adapting to the people, the situations,
the rules,
right? The rules, regulations, and things like that.
Right.
So I am not okay, you are okay. The beauty is people, because of mindsets, glue-like mindsets, die-hard habits,
and concrete wall-like attitudes.
Yeah, they're likely to pick up these communication patterns and follow it throughout their life. Right? Yeah. Now, if that happens, it's very unhealthy.
You can see why. If you think back to your own life, right? If you've realized that there are certain patterns, certain situations that you always tend to find yourself in. Why do all my relationships end up like this? Yeah. Right? Why do I constantly keep getting this feedback from my peers or my manager or my parents, my wife, spouse, whoever it is? Why do I always seem to be stuck in this rut? Perhaps you should reflect, listening to what we're sharing and think back, which ego state do you tend to operate from?
Yeah.
Right? And what patterns of communication do you tend to follow? Maybe it's going to help you understand a little bit about yourself better.
Nothing wrong with the parent state or the child state, provided you choose instead of that becoming a
default.
A default. Absolutely. You use the right word.
Yeah.
Okay, now let's look at the most healthy communication pattern, right? I am okay, you're okay. I respect myself.
Yeah.
I respect you.
Yes.
I believe in myself.
Yes.
I believe you.
Yeah.
So that is what we call it as the
adult state.
Absolutely.
And in the adult state, I think the word you mentioned beautifully, Shri, is respect.
Yep.
Okay. Respect for myself, respect for you.
Right.
Is what is driving this relationship, driving the communication between the both of us.
Beautiful. It's very rational, logical.
Absolutely.
And absolutely healthy, to establish some wonderful interpersonal dynamics, interpersonal relationships, right? So now let the relationship be between a boss and a subordinate, parent and a child, or between husband and wife, right? Or between two friends or business partners.
Right.
Adult to adult communication scores.
It's ultimately what we're trying to bring you and ourselves to when we talk about healthy communication patterns.
Having said that, we have discussed the three quadrant. The last quadrant, I am not okay. You are not okay.
Wow.
What do you call these people?
Where I have no regard for myself, nor for your well-being and welfare?
Yes.
Antisocial?
Absolutely.
Right?
See, they don't respect themselves, they don't care for themselves, neither they care for the other person.
Absolutely.
Right? So they can be the stone throwers,
Yeah.
they could be the robbers, they could be the rapists, they could be the drug addicts, they could be, people who don't have value for themselves or for anything around them or anybody around them.
Absolutely. And it's manifesting in their behaviors, it's manifesting in the way they talk to you, perhaps absolutely no regard to their feelings, your feelings, the situation around them. It's a very lose-lose situation. I lose, you lose.
Please understand, when we say communication pattern, you are talking to yourself much more than you talk to anybody else in your lifetime. So which also tells you why, when you're in a child state or in an antisocial state, your communication, your own internal dialogue, right? Your own communication within your own mind is actually doing you much more harm. So that is why it is not just about
external communication.
It is also about improving my self-esteem,
Absolutely.
my self-belief, my self-confidence.
By taking control of that inner voice within you. So far, we hope you've understood this very simple introduction to transactional analysis. We've understood the ego states from which you could be communicating or interacting with the world around you. Right?
Absolutely.
We've discussed the parent, we've discussed the adult, discussed the child state, right? And the kinds of positions we may take when we are in these ego states. Communication pattern analysis is a psychometric tool that enables you to identify, analyze, and nurture healthy interpersonal relationships amongst your family, colleagues, customers, and other key stakeholders. If you would like your communication pattern analyzed, reach out to OMI and ask for a CPA profile.